Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. Apologies, it's another one of these. It's another one of these dry old videos. Apologies for that. I hope I've given you forewarning with the thumbnails. I did do over the last week or two a couple like this, and what's been encouraging is actually some people are watching these videos. So I'm going to do this one today, all about masteries, and it's one of the most important topics we can discuss. So if I think about my kind of rule of thumb for players playing this game, what do? I say, get more 60s. I did this video a week ago, how to farm food effectively. And that's a really important video in terms of the mindset. Get more level 60s as quick as you can. I've then done 2 videos about gearing, more about gear cleansing actually. I've done this one, I put a good old warning on this one. Save silver, bin the crap. And that was like a basics for gearing, like how do you clear gear out, how do you know what to keep. And then a few days ago I did this kind of one that was aimed more towards the end game, you know, like making those brutal decisions, and less people have watched it, but it still had quite a good amount of good amount of viewers and stuff. So I figured these type of videos are important. Now this comes in line with a big change that we've just done on hellhades.com, which it's probably the biggest update we've done, and for me, one of the most important things that we've done. The only thing that I was annoyed about with my tier list online was the mastery side of things. So if I was looking for, I don't know, let's go for someone who's a bit diverse, maybe a Crisp. If I was looking for someone on the website, I could look in here and we'd get the sort of basis of the champions. So who they are, how do I rate them? How do I rate them in different areas of the game? What they like in faction wars? Would I book them out? This Chris has got a 10 out of 10 booked value, so it's like, yes, book. And which books or which skills are the priorities to land books in? I.e., if you land those skills, you could stop booking and you'd be pretty happy. A little blurb, all the skills. And then we had the mastery section. And it was like, here's my best pick for masteries for PvE and PvP. But it was too generic, and I knew it was too generic, and I wanted some more viability for different areas of the game. So me and the team have put a lot of work into this, have now got multiple masteries per champion. It's actually a massive, massive update to the website. So you click on here, and it's like, bam, this one would be a general PvE build. This would be if you were going to throw him in a stun set. For PvP, if that's what you're going to use him for, this could be your Nuka build. And it kind of shows you a lot of different variations of how you could build the champion, because masteries are diverse. That's what's so good about this game, actually, is that you can build champions to do multiple different jobs. And, you know, if you want a shield set, Chris, okay, we go with this one. You could do a whole lot of different stuff on this game, but you need a bit of knowledge to go with it. So even now, even though we've got all of these different sets, it doesn't mean it's perfect, because you might have a different opinion to us. And honestly, I encourage people to feedback mastery ideas, because we don't have all of the ideas. We've got most of them now. We've got a good, knowledgeable team, but we don't have it all. So let's get into, sorry, that's quite a long preamble, but I think it's important to do it. Let's get into masteries. So masteries are the second most important thing in the game for me. Get more 60s is number 1. Masteries is number 2. Gearing is number 3. That's how crucial they are. On my free-to-play account, you would have noticed if you're following it, all of my champions that I'm using have got full masteries. First thing I do is get them to 60, then I run them through Minnow, and then I worry about either getting the next 60 or farming a bit of gear. That's the rules. So what I'm going to do in this video is just call out what the different masteries are useful for. And this might be quite a long video, guys, but I think it's important. So which of the masteries are useful? What are they useful for? And you know, where do they give you damage spikes, or where do they give you that kind of defense mitigation that you're going to want? So we're just going to kick off with Offence tree. And you start off with, you've got 2 choices. Every single build will pick deadly precision, 5% crit rate, because crit rate is harder to get. So any newer player will pick deadly precision. Makes complete sense. However, it's worth understanding what Blade Disciple is. 75 attack. Okay, so let's just work it out on an attack-based champion. Ethos has got a massive base attack. So the 75 attack on Ethos is like, what, between 4 and 5% attack. So when we're looking at a gear piece that doesn't have any rolls at all, you've got this crit damage piece here. The first non-rolled attack is 5%, and the first non-rolled crit rate is 5%. Okay, so you can actually get about the same value from either of those top tier masteries, believe it or not, even though no one chooses the attack one because crit rate's harder to get, but you actually get about the same value on an Ethos. Slightly worse value for attack than you do crit rate on an Ethos. But if you were looking at a Brogni, who you also want to build with high attack, Brogni's base attack is 782. So actually taking the left side mastery is about 10% attack. So on Brogni, believe it or not, this is a better mastery, but we never choose it because crit rate's harder to get. But the understanding of that, I've taken a long time to talk about 2 basic masteries, but that's why masteries are so key. We blindly go into what we've always done, and we don't understand what we're picking. So for Brogni, Blade Disciple is actually a better mastery. And me doing this video has made me realize it. So I'm probably going to change mine up at some point. But that's where you've got to kind of understand the maths of this game and how it works. So let's go through a bit quicker here. Heart of Glory, great mastery. If you've got full health, you will do 5% more damage. You multiply your damage by 1.05. Simple as that. 10% crit damage is quite nice. Just generally, it's going to give you a damage boost. The other ones here, Shield Breaker, generally I would use as an anti-arena champion. So anyone who's going to nuke in the arena where you know you're not going to have a cleanse that goes before they go. So just so you can get the chance to blow away shields. Not really anyone else's masteries. Grim Resolve, honestly, I would only use on an unkillable team for clan boss when you know you're going to be low health. Or maybe someone like a Skull Crown that can survive at low health and just kick out more damage when she is low health. Single out, straight up, you do 8% more damage against champions with less than 40% HP. The reason why this one is so often in the clan boss setup is because often you face an affinity clan boss, so they're going to have lower health than full health, which means that you're straight up just going to do 8% more damage per hit all the time throughout the whole fight. Life Drinker, again, only really totally viable, or not viable, it's only really useful on an unkillable team where you're trying to, or clan boss team where you're trying to pump up some more health. But I guess against most PvE content, gaining a bit of health when you're doing damage is nice. Certainly more useful on damage dealers than it is on sort of low B support-based champions. Whirlwind of Death, this is one that people fall up on a lot. So if you've got someone like a Seer that you're building and you know you're going to blow up a whole wave, you need to adjust for the fact that when you kill people, you're going to gain 18 more speed. Straight up, you're just going to gain it. So if you're speed tuning, you need to account for the fact that your champion's going to gain speed with this mastery. A lot of people will go Heart of Glory, Keen Strike into Whirlwind of Death to get Ruthless Ambush if they're going for a damage build. Ruthless Ambush, the first time you hit any enemy, it's going to do 8% more damage. Generally useful for a wave clearer or for a campaign farmer or for an arena nuker. Okay, it's gone to tier 3. We start to get some juicy ones. Bring it down. Straight up doing 6% more damage against higher max HP. Almost all PvE enemies, when you get to like stage 10 plus, in any dungeon, any Doom Tower enemies are going to have more health than you. That's the way Raid build the game. They just build it so that they get more and more health stacking up. So this one is generally useful for any damage dealer. Wrath of the Slain increases damage by 5% for each dead ally. Honestly, a pretty useless mastery apart from on like a campaign farmer. There's not that many kind of use cases where this is like a really important one because you don't want your team to be dead, basically. Cycle of Violence. This is one that people get wrong a lot of the time. 30% chance to reduce the cooldown of a skill. Love it, by the way. Really cool mastery. By 1 turn, if the damage inflicted by a skill exceeds 30% of the target's max HP. So any of your support-based champions that are not doing a lot of damage will never proc this. You can never proc this on Clan Boss because Clan Boss got such a massive health pool. A lot of the bosses, it's very hard to proc this when you get later in the game. So this is really an ability that helps your damage dealers when you're going through waves of content. and they can nuke at least 30% of their health. For a campaign farmer, you smack a whole wave for 100% of their health, or 80, 90%, depends how good your team is. And chances are you're going to cool down that skill straight away. Opportunist, so it does what it says, but it's a massive damage buff. So if you know that you're going to be stunning enemies, freezing enemies, then you're going to get 12% more damage if you put Opportunist in. Good mastery. Like if you're adding together Heart of Glory, Ruthless Ambush, Opportunist, you've suddenly got 25% more damage. That's the equivalent of booking someone out fully. Yeah, that's why masteries are so key. A lot of the time you can get a massive damage spike through the right mastery tree. Methodical, just do more damage the more times you A1. This is particularly good on clan boss because you're going to A1 over and over again. Or if you're going into content where you need a lot of hits, like boss fights. Kill streak, only really viable on your nukers. The more people they kill, the more damage you're going to do over time. So for the arena, everyone kind of picks this for the arena. Often you want to just kill people straight out in the arena and you get no benefit from this at all. So just bear that in mind. It might be more worthwhile for you to take Blood Shield in the arena because you know you might kill 2 and then all you got to do is mop up, but you get a nice little shield whilst you're doing the work. But yeah, this is more for waves of content, in my opinion, just to kind of stack through waves, or if you're going against like tanky arena opponents. Blood Shield I just mentioned there, so places a shield for 15% of your HP based on your champion when you kill someone. Not bad mastery. Oh, a Stoke to Fury. This one's an interesting one. It's kind of a bit situational, but as debuffs stack on you, you're going to do more damage. Up to 12% more damage is a big number. 12% is a lot. Okay, so if you know you're going up against Ice Golem for a champion, then actually, chances are you're going to take 1 or 2 debuffs. Or Doom Tower. How many debuffs do we get in Doom Tower? You're going to be giving your champions 12% more damage for most of the fight in Doom Tower with this mastery. Hardly anyone picks it. Okay, because they just blindly follow everything else. 12% is a lot. So it depends where you're going to put someone as to what you do. Warmaster and Giantslayer basically do the same thing. It's a guaranteed proc of damage against an enemy. You get more damage based on the enemy's health pool. So that's why it's such a good clan boss mastery. But it's also particularly good against boss fights. The further that you go in bosses, the higher this hits for because their health pool goes higher. Also, if you're like hard Doom Tower high level, Warmaster actually does quite a good damage proc against general waves of content because their health is so high. But the difference between Warmaster and Giantslayer, Warmaster's got a higher percent to hit, but you only get 1 proc. Giantslayer has got a lower percent chance to hit, but you get the chance to proc per hit. So generally the rule of thumb is if you're going Warmaster, it's for anyone who's got a single target A1 or a 2-hitter A1. And Giantslayer, good rule of thumb, is a 3-hitter or a 4-hitter on their A1. It's a better mastery for. The 2 kind of other tier 6 damage dealing masteries, Helm Smasher. 9 times out of 10, if I'm building a damage dealer, Helm Smasher is the one I want because I'm ignoring defense. And there's a lot of defense in this game. And ignoring defense is the single best way to do more damage. Straight up. It does have a 50-50 chance as whether it's going to do it or not. But if it does it, it's a massive old damage spike. Versus Flawless Execution. The only time you'd really use Flawless Execution for the 20% crit damage is if you want absolute consistency of damage. So if you want a campaign farm that's going to do the same thing time and time again, or if you're going up against, I don't know, Spider 20, and you want your Heartseeker to always do the same amount of damage, or your Royal Guard Slam to do the same amount of damage, then it's a consistency play. But the damage spike comes from Helm Smasher more so than Flawless Execution. So that's Offence. If you're still with me, well done. Hopefully you're learning some stuff and you're learning to not just blindly copy masteries. Let's get on to defense. Okay then, defense masteries. Let's just go through them. Tough Skin, straight up just gives you a bit of defense. 75, very similar to what we talked about here. It's actually not a bad mastery. 75 on most people's base defense is like 7.5% defense boost. Not bad. Resistance plus 10. This is only ever used on a resistance build. There's really, unless you're plugging for improved parry, which actually is quite a nice ability. but it's mainly used for arena-based champions or for Doom Tower-based champions. And the defense tree generally, like, used to get a lot of flack. People didn't really used to pick it. It's now become vital for a lot of builds. So the ones that people usually pick on tier 2, blast proof, nearly all boss damage is AoE, nearly all big arena hits is AoE. So you're going to get a lot of value from picking a 5% deduction in damage that's going to come into you. Straight up 5% deduction. If you know you're going to be taking crits, which is mainly the arena, you know you will be critting the arena, then actually improved parry is great because it gives you an 8% reduction. You can't take both together, so you kind of have to take your pick in terms of which reduction tree you want to go, and that also dictates which first mastery you're going to pick. Situational one, rejuvenation. If you know you're going to have someone building shields in your team, then this is nice to give you 5% more. Normally used if you've got a Krisk on your team, or a Valk on your team, or a Brogni, so that you get more benefit from those shields. Normally an arena or a clan boss mastery as well. Mighty endurance, decrease the damage you take if you've frozen or feared. This is actually quite nice in faction war boss fights type of mastery set, or a lot of the new Doom Tower bosses, stuns, fears, freezes, all of that type of stuff. You know the content it's going to come in to, but you know, people don't necessarily pick their champions by specializing their builds, which is actually what you need to do as you get further and further into the game. Specialize your masteries rather than just go generic. Shadow heal. I don't really like this mastery. Heals his champion by 6% of their health each time an enemy is healed. Occurs once per turn, but that means you have to take another turn before it can happen again. I guess it's okay if you know you're up against someone who's going to heal. I don't often take it though. Resurgent, potentially the most broken game mastery in the game. Certainly for arena. This mastery is ridiculous actually. So 50% chance to remove one random, a random chance to remove a random debuff, but it's actually insane. So everyone opens up with drop defense on you, you know, and often there's other random debuffs that can come onto you, but drop defense is a big one. So if you lose over a quarter of your health, you've got a chance to just remove a debuff. And that often is one of the most important things that can happen to turn a fight for arena defense team. But Resurgent is actually pretty busted mastery. Bloodthirst, don't see this one used a lot. Heals by 10% of their max HP when they kill someone. This is particularly good on a high HP champion who's doing a high damage output. So someone like a Magnar, someone like a Mountain King, they will get a lot of value from this because they're going to be popping people down and they're going to have a high health pool as well. Wisdom of Battle, 30% chance of placing block debuffs when one of the big debuffs expires. I mean, I don't really see this one picked much. It's actually for Doom Tower. This is particularly good. And for faction war bosses, it's particularly good as well. Because you get these proccing on you a lot. But a 30% chance for it to happen is kind of weak. So, I don't know. If you've gone down this side of the tree, I'd say it's a useful one to take. If you're down this side of the tree, I wouldn't fight my way to get to it. Okay, tier 4 stuff then. Increase ally resistance by 5 for each buff placed on them by this champion. Weak source. Just a weak source mastery, this one. Chances are, I mean, which champions place more than 2? There's not many that place more than 2 buffs. So an extra 10 resistance is really not worth a lot. It's not worth a mastery for me. So delay death. This is going to be a mastery that you take for long-term fights. So things like clan boss fights. But it also, if you're taking Resurgent, you need a way into often Retribution, and that tends to be the path that people take because you just get a straight-up damage mitigation for each hit that you take from one enemy. You know, if you're in the arena, the chance of you taking 6 hits before they finally kill you is very low, so you get very little value from this. But clan boss, you get straight up 6% less damage that you're going to take over time. The clan boss tickles at the start and hits hard towards the end, so this becomes a strong mastery for clan boss setups. You see it a lot in like defensive tree clan boss builds. Harvest Despair is situational. Depends if your champion can place any of these debuffs. If they can, it's actually not a bad mastery. 60% chance of placing Leech for 1 turn when they place Stun, Sleep, Fear, True Fear, Freeze. Just bear in mind that's not going to work against bosses. No bosses allow you to place any of those debuffs. So this is really for like Doom Tower wave content, where you want that extra leech ability to keep your team alive. So it's actually really good if you're trying to get through hard Doom Tower. Again, a lot of people don't choose it. Someone like a Seal, an Astralon, someone like Achak, who is going to be placing these debuffs pretty consistently. A Shalard would be good here as well. Just Kymar, I guess, with the sleeps. Like anyone who's going to be placing these things consistently will get some good value for your team out of that debuff. Stubbornness, increase. This is a weird one. Increase resistance by 10 for each debuff on this champion. Stacks up to 30. So chances are, if you're building a resistance build, you're going to want this mastery. But if you're building a resistance build, you shouldn't be getting debuffed to get the extra 30 resistance. There's not really a use case for this. I don't see a use case for this. Because if they're stacking debuffs on you, your resistance wasn't good enough. The extra 30 probably doesn't make the difference. Unless you're just getting unlucky. But I wouldn't pick this one in most situations. Selfless Defender. This is an interesting one as well. Decreases the damage an ally receives from the first hit in each round. There's lots of things to work out here. By 20%. This champion will take that damage instead. Only one person on your team can proc this. If you had 4 people with this mastery on in a team of 5, you don't reduce the damage by 80% on someone. Only one person will ever use this ability. So there's no point in having it on multiple champions in the same team. The person who actually reduces the damage would be the person who's highest in the turn order on your team. Bear that in mind. Also, it's in each round. So there's only one round in a clan boss fight, for example. So there's literally 0 point in this being on a clan boss champion, because the first round you don't really take any damage anyway. So this is mainly for an arena defense where you're trying to mitigate the damage going onto your nuker. Or potentially if you've got like a full-on tank, like a Vogoth for PvE content, and you want to try and protect someone in your team. If you see again though, decreases the damage an ally receives from the first enemy hit in each round. Yeah, so as you go through one wave onto the second wave, that counts as round 2. So it's a great mastery. You just need to understand how it works. Cycle of Revenge. I like this mastery. Pretty self-explanatory, really. This is on someone that you want to boost turn meter on, someone that you want to get ahead of the game. 50% chance is a nice percentage of increasing turn meter by 15% when an ally is hit by a crit. So that's based on your full speed. Let's say your speed is 250. You get a 15% turn meter based on that full speed. Will only increase the turn meter once if multiple allies are hit. So you only ever get a 15% spike. Particularly good if you're trying to boost someone like a Cardial or an Arbiter, someone like that to go first if you know you're going to take damage. Good in a go second arena team if you're trying to push someone ahead of the enemy's turn meter. Next one up, Retribution. Pretty self-explanatory, this one. 50% chance to counterattack if you lose a quarter of your health. This is good on people that have got a big A1 AoE type hit. So someone like a Skull Crown, this is beautiful, especially because she can't die as well with that first hit. So she gets like a double hit out. It's also nice against Clan Boss. As you start to take more damage, you've got a chance to counterattack. And as you counterattack, you've got a chance to proc that Warmaster hit, which actually can heal you to full. Retribution's a really good mastery. And then Deterrence is kind of like a weak source version of that mastery, really. 20% chance to counterattack if there's any sort of true lock put onto one of your team. So, I don't know, 20% is kind of low. This is definitely the weaker of the two abilities out of those last two masteries. But, you know, the Clan Boss puts a stun out on someone. Well, if they're putting a stun on one of your team and everyone's got this, chances are at least one of your team's going to counterattack and get a hit away. Also in the arena, obviously, if people are throwing out stuns and fears and stuff, there's a chance to counterattack. Not a bad mastery. Often you see people kind of come into Retribution and then lead into Deterrence. So, Tier 6 then in defense. A straight 200 defense. You never see this taken. You just never see it. And rightly so, I think. It's worth maybe 15% defense to most people. It's kind of weak for a tier 6 mastery. Bulwark is interesting. So again, similar to Selfless Defender, Bulwark can only work with one person on your team. You've got multiple people with Bulwark on. It doesn't make any difference. Only the first person in turn order will take the Bulwark reduction of damage from other people. So it decreases the damage all allies receive by 5%. It's a straight damage reduction. It's nice. It's kind of like a Stalwart set type of thing inbuilt into one champion, but it's taking it from all allies. So this is your absolute tank, your uber tank that's protecting everyone else, because this champion's going to take that damage instead. Fearsome Presence. This is basically for anyone who is your stun champion or your provoke champion, your freeze champion, and they don't already have a 100% chance to land those skills. Seal is a great example. Every time she's doing a stun ability, an extra 5% chance to land it. It also helps those sets. So if you've got a stun set or a provoke set going off, then this will give you a higher chance to land the stuns from those sets. Good example here, someone like Sylar. She has got fairly low damage. Yeah, she's not going to do a whole lot of damage. So you put her in a stun set and then she's going to get some control going. Put her in a stun set, give her Fearsome Presence. You get a higher chance to land the stuns. She wasn't doing damage anyway, so there was no point in having the damage masteries. All you're doing is giving yourself a better chance of using her for her used case, which is stunning people. And obviously doing all of the turn meter stuff. Okay, last one here then, Unshakable. Plus 50 resistance is actually quite a nice mastery, only if you're doing a resistance build. Generally only used on arena defensive teams where you're literally going for a pump and a resistance on someone. And to give you an idea, one champion on the enemy team with 400 accuracy can wipe out a whole team with 350 resistance. Yeah? So to go for a resistance build, you have to go big, like 500, 600, 700, and be aware that one enemy can take out a whole resistance team versus every defensive person has to be crazy high resistance. So it's weighted in the favor of accuracy versus resistance, which is why you don't really see that much of a resistance meta in most of the game. But resistance is strong in places like Doom Tower, specifically because the accuracy of these enemy bosses is high, and in the arena. And also we see now resistance kind of popping up in some kind of like solo farmers sometimes. But it's fairly niche, but 50 resistance is a lot. It's, you know, it's half a banner in effect. Whew, still with me? Right, on to the support tree then. So what's going on with support? Generally, support tree is for support champions, believe it or not. But early game, a lot of champions benefit from the accuracy side because accuracy is one of the most important stats in the game. If you're trying to land debuffs, if you're trying to land abilities, anything where you're doing something to the enemy, apart from just raw damage, you're going to need accuracy to do it. Turn meter drop, you need accuracy. Debuff landing, you need accuracy. Stealing someone's health, if they've got that sort of ability, you need accuracy to do it. Okay, so most people will select pinpoint accuracy, plus 10 accuracy. It's kind of like we were talking about over here. It's basically a level 1 piece of gear. It's the first roll you get is 10 accuracy. So like a 5-star piece of gear. If I find anything not rolled, I'm going for main stat, idiots. So a 5-star piece of gear. If I can find something not rolled, which is rare on my account, it's the number that you will get. Here we go. 11 accuracy, so 10 or 11. 11's actually a good roll. That's not a good piece, though. So, that's what you've got. A straight-up accuracy boost here. Or you've got 800 health. And depending on the type of champion is whether you pick these two, but most people will pick pinpoint accuracy. Now, Steadfast, interestingly, in Clan Boss, if all things are equal and somebody's got Steadfast on as a mastery and the Clan Boss is deciding who to stun, he will not go for the person with this mastery. Okay? It doesn't override things like buffs and stuff like that, but if the Clan Boss is looking around, he's like, who should I go for? And he's like, ooh, that fella's got Steadfast. I'll give him a miss if everything else is equal. That's an interesting one if you're trying to make sure that stuns don't land on certain champions. Okay, so what we've got here is pretty self-explanatory. higher heals for this by 5%. Just straight up, it would only go on a healer. You've got shields increased by 5% here. Again, only for someone who's going to shield champions, pretty self-explanatory. Not a bad mastery here. Heals by 10% of their max HP the first time an enemy is killed. Not you killing, any enemy is killed. So, this is like your support tree way to regain health when your nukers are doing their work. And you got this one here, which often, and I'm so guilty of this. I'm so guilty of this. I'm like, I need accuracy. I'll take this one. I know my champion needs accuracy. Take charge focus. Accuracy increases by 20 when you've got no skills on cooldown. That's when it works. It turns off as soon as you've used a skill. Okay? So I'm guilty of just being like accuracy 20, blinkers. It's not that. So often this mastery is not really activated at all. Often this is not working. But, for your first hits, it's gonna, so for an arena debuffer or a debuffer for your waves of content, so someone like a Stag Knight throwing out decreased defense, you get your 20 accuracy on that first ability, and you got to wait for it to come back off cooldown before it goes again. Good thing with someone like a Stag Knight or a Bad L, if they've only got one skill that can cool down, then every time you're going to use it, it's always active. Versus someone who's got 3 or 4 skills, chances are one of those skills is always on cooldown. Okay? Healing, Savior, again, it's just a straight up healing ability. Increases the amount of healing and the value of shields if someone's low health. Okay? Straight up. But again, it's if they're low health. So this isn't going to give you a bigger shield at the start of a turn or something. This is straight up only when you're taking a load of damage. 2 masteries to look out for here. So rapid response, you gain more turn meter as buffs you cast expire. Somebody's got a load of buffs going on, like a helmet in normal content. He's just going to get a turn meter field constantly going, which is cool. On someone like Clan Boss, often you don't want to manipulate your speed if you've got a speed tune going on. So this is one of the ones that can throw out something like an unkillable team, because as you gain a little bit of extra turn meter, eventually you're going to throw out your speed tune and you won't be unkillable anymore. So it's just one to watch out for. Swarm Smiter, 4 accuracy more for every enemy alive. Get up to 16. Generally, it's always 16. Apart from maybe Clan Boss. Like Arena, you get straight up 16. Any wave content is straight up 16. Boss fights and Clan Boss is going to be 4, generally. So just bear in mind that. But it's a bit of a boosted accuracy. Normally, you see people go accuracy, 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 kind of blindly doing it. It's not a bad way to do it, but if you kind of rethink yourself, are you going to get the 20 benefit here? Are you going to really benefit from 4? So you might actually be better off going pinpoint accuracy into Exalt in Death, into something like Arcane Celerity or Rapid Response, depending on what type of build you're doing. Arcane Celerity is exactly the same as Rapid Response I just spoken about, apart from it's for debuffs that you cast. So anyone like Stag Knight or Tyrell or anyone who's throwing out the debuffs, Poisoners, are going to get turn meter fill going on when this goes off. Okay, tier 4 stuff. Increases the healing and value of shield buffs by 15% if the target is stunned, feared, sleeped, frozen. Very situational. Doesn't happen that often until you get into like high level Doom Tower and Faction Wars and stuff. So again, people kind of use it as a means to an end really to get to the next one. It's not that often that it procs, honestly. Cycle of Magic. Again, it's a bit of a watch out ability, this one. 5% chance to decrease the cooldown of a skill by 1 turn at the start of a turn. So it will only decrease the cooldown of a skill that's on cooldown. So if you've got one champion that's only got 1 skill that can cool down, then this is particularly good because you just get it back quicker. If you think about a Clan Boss run that's going to last, let's say, I don't know, call it 60 turns. So chances are you get this to proc 3 times over a full Clan Boss run. Yeah, and it's random when it's going to happen. Chances are in normal content, it's just hit or miss. 5%'s low. It's a hit or miss. 1 in 20 that's going to happen. But it's not a bad mastery. And often, if you're looking to do Blasting Gifts and Master Hexer, you have to take it. But It's just one to watch out for. Law of Steel, a lot of people don't understand this. Increases the base stat set bonuses of all sets that increase base stats by 15%. The wording's terrible, really. So any set that increases any base stat, and all of these are base stats, by the way. All of them are base stats. HP, attack, defense, all of them base. Any set that increases it, you get a further 15%. Okay? So even stuff like Swift Parry set, where you gain speed, that will gain additional speed. You gain more attack from Cruel Gear. You'll gain more health from Immortal Gear. Swift Parry, you'll gain the more speed and more crit damage. You get both with Law of Steel. Any health gain like this, deflection, you'll get extra health. Perception, accuracy, and speed, they're both base stats. You will get more. Yeah, so any of those things where it affects any base stat, you will get a higher base stat. If you use the optimizer, it already knows this. It already accounts for this. So it's actually a really strong mastery. It's not so strong if you're doing something like a lifesteal build because you're not boosting any base stats. Okay? So the more base stat sets you've got on, the better it gets. Evil Eye is actually one of the best masteries in the game. So anyone who's got an A1 that's a single target, you get a 20% turn meter drop on the first time you use it against a target. Particularly good if you're trying to slow down waves, trying to stop someone going in the arena, trying to make sure that the bosses don't use their ability straight out, especially good against Spider. Anyone who's hitting with AoE will just do a 5% turn meter drop across everyone that they hit. Again, it's actually not that bad. You know, someone like a Geomancer doing his A1 just pushes their turn meter back a little bit, might give you an extra turn to get your damage away before they go. Okay, tier 5 stuff then. Lasting Gifts, 30% chance to put a buff on for an extra turn. Doesn't work on Unkillable, block damage, revive on death. Pretty self-explanatory, but this is quite nice if you're trying, let's say you've got Bad L, who's putting out poisons but also heals, and you want to keep that heal extending for more time. Lasting Gifts will give you a chance to do that. Spirit Haste is a kind of useless mastery, really, apart from on a campaign farmer, potentially. But I probably wouldn't go support tree for campaign farm. But basically, you get faster as your team die. Maybe on someone who is just in there for a revive. So you get 8 more speed for 3 people going down. Means you've got a better chance to get back to your revive still. But it's not that great a mastery. Sniper, really good mastery. Helps you top up the chance of landing your debuffs. Doesn't land additional chance on any of like the real lockout abilities like your stuns and your sleeps and freezes. But if you've got someone who's a poison A1, decrease attack A1, this becomes a really good skill if it's not already 100% chance to land. And in Master Hexer, anyone who's throwing out debuffs has got a chance to put them on for an extra turn. So it's particularly useful in clan boss or boss fights when you can't keep something like a decrease attack up the whole time or decrease defense up the whole time. Just gives them a chance when your champion lands it, it can just go on for an extra turn. So tier 6 stuff then. Almost never see anyone take Elixir of Life, 3,000 more health. I think the only person that I've ever used it on is like a proper arena straight tank. Absolute tank. But even then, you know, something like Bulwark is just a better tank mastery than Elixir of Life. If you think about it, it's probably the equivalent of about a 15% gain in health for most champions. Timely Intervention. This is basically for someone who is going to be a reviver for your team. So you'll see this mastery on people like Duchess, Usurga, any of those, Godseeker, anyone who's going to revive your team, Rectodraff. So they gain more turn meter when people drop low. And obviously they get back round to their ability faster. They're also, it's also useful for someone maybe as a turn meter booster who's trying to get your team back into the fight. So someone like a Seeker, Arbiter, this is quite a nice one on. Oppressor, very rarely see this used. It's very niche, extremely niche. Someone like a Richthof the Bold, Eurodrim, who else might use it? Anyone who's throwing out a ton of debuffs and you just want them to be moving quick and get through their abilities fast. And then lastly, Eagle Eye. This is like a must-have for anyone who is like they're just in your team to land debuffs. So anyone who is in your arena team to just land drop defense, anyone who's in your I don't know, arena team to just cleanse off some debuffs, anyone who's in Doom Tower, and honestly, they don't really do damage without landing their abilities, Eagle Eye becomes really strong. So someone like a Drexar, you just want him to land his burns. When he gets hit, you want the burns to land in Doom Tower. Eagle Eye is better than Warmaster or something like that for me. So there you go, guys. Look, hopefully that's giving you some knowledge. Hopefully you don't just blindly now follow everything that we see on my website or anywhere else. But if you do, the website's now vastly improved to help you with that stuff anyway. I've been Hell Hades. Whew. I'll see you later.